Are there folks here from colleges, universities? Sorry, Judy. Oh, okay, good. Wow. All right, hold on. That's great. Okay, well, all right, so we've got 20 minutes, as you know. I have some slides. It's deliberately a little shorter because I'm hoping we can talk a little bit afterward, and if there's questions, we'll have time for that. If not, I'm here all day, so please come find me. Okay, I'm Brian Clark. That's a recent portrait of me by my nephew. I'm the Senior Director of Digital Experience at Rhode Island School of Design. It's in Providence, Rhode Island. And I lead the strategy and the operations for all of our major websites in our Drupal Acquia platform. I get asked a lot about our structure. My team is called Digital Experience. We are 4 full-time employees, and we have a wonderful team of designers and developers who we work with at MediaCurrent almost every day. My group reports into both Marcom as well as ITS, and that was very deliberate because we wanted to approach our work from a foundation of both marketing and communications as well as technology and systems. It's funny because when I started putting together this talk, I was going back to some slides that I had originally made about 5 years ago when we were first starting to solicit funding and buy-in for what ultimately became known as the Digital Ecosystem Initiative. And while this initiative is by no means complete, I'm now in a much better place. Thanks to my amazing team and thanks to our partners, as well as some incredibly supportive stakeholders within RISD. Last year we launched our new DXP, which runs on Drupal and Acquia Site Factory, and has a component-based design system that is fully aligned with RISD's newish brand. We've used this to completely relaunch our main RISD.edu site, as well as a big student-centered website destination. And we're now working on the next round of sites. All of this in a newly coordinated way. This is not where we started. A few years back, this is a list of some of the major sites. We had close to 100 websites, all of which, now that's not uncommon for a college, but all of these sites were promoting the college in some public-facing way. There were at least 5 different content management systems that were being used across the college. So these are just some of the bigger ones. And then visually, it kind of looked like this. I used to love to show this slide when I was going out to do we're a very visual place, very visual culture, so I could see, when I was trying to make the case for why we needed more common systems and structures. I'd show this, and you could see everyone start to recoil a little bit, which was good. It was a good tactic. But anyway, the overall UX was totally a mess. No common navigation systems. Everything was presented differently. There were definitely security and compliance risks. There was no backup or continuity plans for breached code. There were no backup or continuity plans for most of the websites, and there was no plans for repairing breached code if it happened. And there was no common understanding of WCAG accessibility standards. And this, of course, as you know, we were subject to the emails, like we were talking about in the last session, where we were potentially at risk for ADA lawsuits. So this initiative started with a presentation that I created with our former CMO, and that we ultimately delivered to the upper administration. And we talked about how RISD's websites attract close to a million visitors every year, but our digital campus in total did not reflect RISD's standards of quality. Expectations for RISD are, and they should be, they're high. So we talked about creating a publishing foundation for the future. And we talked about bringing together people, processes, infrastructure, content, domains, all towards a common purpose and with sustainable governance. And I pretty much didn't stop talking for over a year. While we worked on a plan for funding, I took this presentation to every department or every area of the college which had a website and therefore had skin in the game. I shared our strategy for getting the campus organized on a common set of tools and a common set of processes, and creating a coherent sense of digital place and committing to accessibility. And this is 100% what we're doing right now. So that was lesson number 1. If you're doing this work, you are in the people business. There's no GPT for this. Most of our sites had someone behind it who cared. These folks had goals and they had things to communicate. Some of them were afraid that they would lose control that they had over their content, and we needed to show how our platform would create value. whether that's publishing agility, brand standardization, accessibility, or just saving departments money. These were our future collaborators, and we wanted them to feel that we had spent the time to hear and synthesize their concerns and came back with something that was a response. So that way, when it was time to ask people to start participating in the new CMS, we already had them on our team. It was so important. While we were doing this, RISD was in a strategic planning phase, which was amazingly helpful. Eventually, we secured funding, and we even got the project written into the strategic plan. And it was written as to, quote, transform RISD's websites and other digital functions into a strategically consistent, intentional, and audience-focused ecosystem. This allowed us to do a very exhaustive study of all of the content that it was being published and to consider new organizing principles. So we eventually landed on a user-focused architecture, and that's here, and this is still guiding our approach. Everything took a pause during the height of the COVID pandemic, but by 2022, my colleagues in Marcom were working on a new, slow down. Okay. Videos have been tough today. Maya, do you know how I can do that?
Should I try?
Yeah, I could do. It's supposed to auto start. Oh, there we go. Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay. Went through and stopped. All right, so you stopped for a second. I wish you were moving. Anyway, we're working on a new visual and verbal identity framework for the college. This was its own huge project. It launched in late 2022. So what we did is my team was working with MediaCurrent to design and build a common set of modular Drupal components. So we kind of slowed our train down a little bit, let the brand and identity project catch up so that we could bring them together and build at one time. And so you can start to see some of the identity concepts coming into our components. And obviously these components came out of a big audit to examine all of our content types and really figure out how we could build a system that could deliver as many content scenarios as possible. You can see this is really where our UX designs really started to meet the new brand system. And this was lesson number 2. Before you design a component system, audit all your audit all your content. Define your content types, and then go back and do it a second time. Because what we did was we spent, we had the good fortune to be able to spend a good amount of time doing this, and we still found that we missed some basic content things. So when we started to roll the sites out, we'd be like, wait, we don't have a block for this, or wait. And so that's been some of our backlog. But what I wish we had done, Figma makes it really easy to take your system and stress test it and be able to put together comps. So I wish we had gone and done pretty much comps for every possible scenario on the site ahead. It would have been time well spent, and it would have saved us when we were starting to develop for pages for real and started to run into where there were weaknesses with the original, the first version of the system that we launched. But ultimately, we got things figured out. Last year, in 2023, using the components and the tools for the new system, we were relatively quickly able to develop and launch the new version of our institutional RISD.edu site. And we've been able to quickly and collaboratively build smaller presences, like this expanded education site, and train the campus teams to update and manage the sites. So every stakeholder who we work with to either migrate or create a new presence from scratch, we train them at the same time, and we start to get them going and give them editor roles and get them up and running. This is a tool that we launched last year. It's a new searchable courses browser. We, as a college, started using Workday Student for all of our college data, so we integrated it with course data from Workday Student. And these are screens from our Student Hub, which connects students to resources, offices, and services. So many of the older, what you saw on that list, those older siloed departmental sites, those have now been migrated and brought into Drupal as sub-sites within this Student Hub destination. And we've been releasing these things pretty consistently and very methodically. So lesson number 3 is to develop a rigorous product management approach. Push code every 2 weeks, fix something, update something. With a regular development cadence, you'll be amazed at how gradually you're able to get control over bugs, catch up on your backlog, optimize your components, and consistently add new features to your platform or to your sites. You'll also be amazed at how adaptable you become to respond to whatever comes your way. This is how we're going to grow and evolve the ecosystem over time without having to start over with a massive redesign. So I'm just going to leave this up here. You know, obviously this is kind of a return on investment slide that we like to use when we go out and talk about the new system. But I'm really curious if there are folks who are either starting a project like this or managing a big system of sites and maybe have some questions. Jim.
I have all the questions. I mean, first of all, awesome. And 2, any question I have, you seem to have achieved what we at Penn State are aspiring to do. So I'm going to have a lot more questions.
Okay.
But 1, I mean, for us at a big, very large decentralized organization, for us, the governance issue and the funding model issue and sort of getting that call to action from leadership to go do something big has always been that elusive fever dream for us. I mean, when you talked about how you socialized, talking to all the people,
Yep.
my question is how did you develop that call to action among leadership to go and do this? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, I think...
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was how, in terms of, let's see if I can paraphrase it a little bit.
Because I'm hearing org change imply a little bit in this too, more than just web. Like how RISD is.
There we go.
How RISD, it seems to me, is executing web strategy has changed rapidly. I'm just curious.
Yes.
How did you come up with?
Well, so I mean, I guess one advantage was we weren't going from like some previously locked-in strategy. We were going from no strategy. I mean, we literally had a former president who, in the early teens, was advocating for brand identities are for corporations. Everyone can spin up a blog. You should all have websites. You should all have social media. So everyone started these websites. So a lot of what you saw in that collage were sites that people started because they felt compelled to. A lot of them were good in isolation. Some of them weren't. Sometimes people would say to me like, "The president wanted me to start a blog, but we don't know what to say." And you know what I mean. And so we'd have things like that. So I don't think there was anyone who was like, we have this genius strategy and you want to change it. And that was an advantage, you know what I mean? Mostly what we had to do, I think where the real, where some of the digging in came was more for the folks who were passionate about their sites and felt like we represented bureaucracy, right? Like we were going to come in and take it over and not give you the ability to edit your own site. And that wasn't the case, obviously, but that's what they thought. But that was happening more at the lower levels. At the upper administration level, which was your question.
Yeah.
Honestly, repetition. We did I don't want to undersell it. Like I spent a year, going, and we were fortunate because I think the leadership in both marketing and IT understood the pain that we were in because those sites would break. There'd be things that would happen where a site would get hacked. And then the graduate student that built it 4 years ago is long gone, right? And so they called us. And so we'd have to figure out what it was. And so, they were witnessing that. And so they were advocating. We were also, because it was strategic planning, we were trying to maximize, we were seeing offices that in some ways wanted to do their own thing and didn't want to have to collaborate, spend outrageous amounts of money to basically build the same things that were being built on RISD.edu or other sites. So I think it was just all about pointing those things out and hammering that message over and over and over. Accessibility also helps.
Yeah.
We were talking before, the previous session was about accessibility. We were talking about the vendors who will prey on the fears of the presidents and the cabinet members, leadership. They don't want to get sued. And we definitely were like, we could get sued. So accessibility helped open some wallets. You're welcome. Yes?
So you mentioned that before you had like hundreds of sites. Do you still have a large family of sites? And if so, how much flexibility do each of those sites have? Are they fairly locked in and people are not liking that? Or were you able to give them room to play?
Yeah. Well, so that's actually where we're at right now in the design process. And some of it has to do with our brand, the brand identity concept, what revolves around these concepts of orbits. So digitally, we've been sort of sticking with what's considered the inner orbit lately, which is really just the things that are unequivocally institutional. The Office of Financial Aid, the things like that, right? A lot of the student services offices that you saw in our student hub. Now we're starting to talk to academic departments, and we're starting to talk to some of the outer, something like maybe a continuing education. And those are ones that within the brand identity are allowed a degree of flexibility. So now what we're starting to look at is how we expand our templates and our system to include things like secondary colors, maybe some new blocks that allow for additional. The growth of this all depends on how much we're able to create a sense of ecosystem-wide consistency and yet allow for flexibility where it really deserves to be. So that's the next challenge. Does that answer your question?
And,
Mostly.
Are you getting buy-in?
Yeah, there's a few, mostly, yes, there's a lot of people who are like, please help us, just tell us what to do. We had a lot of changeover after COVID. I don't know if that's common to other schools, but there was just kind of a big switch, right? People had been working really hard and found new jobs, and a lot of people came in and were like, oh, by the way, you own this website. And they were like, I don't want to own this website. I don't want to think about, I don't want to pay for hosting, like that kind of stuff. And so those folks are very amenable to being migrated. And in that case, it's just a question of our resources and our ability to structure projects with everyone and spend the time with them to get them trained and that kind of thing. So we can only do so many at once. There's a few holdouts who are kind of like, we like our site, don't come for us anytime soon and everyone will be cool. That's happening. We'll get there. They'll take a little extra.
Hey.
Hey.
Great presentation. Your website looks beautiful.
Thank you.
I sit at the central marketing team at a university. I sit at a few different universities, and one of the common things that I see, which I call like bright and shiny object thinking, is when you build something beautiful, everyone thinks that they can have the next best beautiful thing in the world, and they want everything, cool and shiny and flashy and so on. How do you control that kind of way of thinking? Like, what is some of the ways that you've been able to hold them off?
Patience. Right.
Like, for example, your website. How many types of templates do you have? How much flexibility is there? Is that some of the ways that you can manage that process of everyone wanting their own kind of look and feel?
I think because we spent so much time going around and talking about kind of how it was going to roll out and what the system looked like, and I get told like, don't talk about blocks. People don't want to hear about that. But I always resisted that a little bit because I felt like, no, you need to know. I won't overdo it, but you need to understand what the blocks are. You need to understand how those blocks come together and form the experiences. And I think I did enough of that maybe, or my team did enough of that to like put together a sense of like, okay, the templates are constructed in this way. So no one's really asking for things so far that's wildly out of way out in left field or whatever. Like I'm really good. It's more like, actually sometimes when they ask, it's more just individual block requests, or we know that something's needed because of a way that an existing block will get weirdly used or like hacked. Someone tried to put a video in a block today yesterday that was by no means made for video, But it made me think, like it looked terrible, but it made me think like, what are they after? And so sometimes those are like subtle requests. But what we do get asked about, of course, is things like, when are we going to have a chatbot? When are we going to have a, you know what I mean? And those are good. Those are, you know, those are thoughtful requests. But that I think is where we get some of the new shiny, you know, that type of thing. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.